Hey, this is Stephen Platinum, your friend in wrestling, with Platinum versus AEW Dark for June 2nd, 2020. It was a good show. I think, as far as a good length of show, I think 45 minutes works. I think the hour and 20 minutes or even longer that they've been going lately, it's too much, man. When there's 9 or 10 or 11 matches, it's just too much. Tonight they promoted 4 at the top of the show. It ended up being 5, and that fifth match was a nice surprise. It was 2 women wrestlers I like a lot, one of whom I've seen here locally, here in Florida before, Kylan King, and Christy James, who I thought had a great match against Hikaru Shida, and an even better showing. There's something about her that screams potential star. In any case, we're going to get to that match, but we start off with it's Dasha Gonzalez is the ring announcer. I finally got that name. They've never put up a graphic with her name on it. It helps me remember. It's something they may want to think about. It's a very minor point, but it's nice. If you got him out there, you got him out there. And maybe talking about the referees just a little bit as well. I'm a little biased because occasionally they have a referee that I know, and I would love for them to get that little shout out. Small stuff, but again, as AEW Dark begins to become kind of a show unto itself that isn't just a series of squash matches, but the promos I think lend themselves. They have stories that carry on from show to show. Like in our quote unquote main event, we got Brandon Cutler and Peter Avalon with Leva Bates, both of whom have not won a match in AEW yet, and they've kind of made hay about it, and both of them were involved in the Battle Royal and threw each other out at the same time, and now tonight they're teaming up. I like that they're giving some things, and they advanced a lot about the QT Alley thing. I think it's a good look. So as they continue to put these kind of touches in, the more that we can do to sort of round out this show and make it look even better, especially with small things like putting graphics up of people's names, I think it would go a long way. Anyway, we're into the first match. John Skyler, who I think a lot of, and I'm glad he's getting a singles match, and it's against Billy Gunn, though they don't say Gunn, but he is with his son Austin Gunn. They're the Gunn Show, which is ludicrous. Did make me laugh. The Guns are annoying, and that's the gimmick, and I think it's funny. It doesn't feel like Billy's being positioned for anything much bigger, but it is what it is. They talk a lot about Skyler, how he's wrestled for 11 years, and he looks the part. In spite of the size difference, it's really not that glaring because Skyler's at least built well and moves so smoothly. I thought Skyler only got a really brief moment to shine, but he really made the most of it. When he was out on the apron and he did that thing where he pulled himself in on the second rope, dove and hit that spear, I thought it really looked good. And then when he countered the Famouser, I didn't really get the thing that they were going for where Billy Gunn got him in like a sort of a pile driver position. But then Austin said, no, don't do that. Then he went for the Famouser, missed it, but then soon hits it, and that's the end of John Skyler. Your winner is Billy. I was hoping for a little bit of a longer show from Skyler, but it is what it is. He's getting looks on Dark. We don't have a lot of the usual suspects for this Dark. The people that I'm more familiar with, Sean Dean, Alan Angels, Danny Jordan. Didn't see them here. Didn't see a number of other guys as well. It's a new crop of guys here to put people over, and that's fine, of course. But yeah, of course I miss seeing those guys. I was really glad that John Cruz was going to be there, though. I'm a big fan of John Cruz and that kind of thing. Then we had a promo with Dustin and Brandy. It was a great little promo where QT pulls up in the hot car and Allie's there as well. They put over some bits of information, though, that I thought was really cool, that Dustin and QT, the Natural Nightmares, are the number 2 ranked tag team. That's certainly a big deal, since they're going to have a tag team title match on Dynamite. And, QT has a nice little interaction. It's fun seeing him open up. It's fun seeing Brandy get sort of exasperated with this idea of Allie. but then attempt to sort of get them all on the same page for the tag match that they're going to have. It's also funny seeing Dustin, who was one of the most outlandish characters in wrestling history as Goldust. It's really funny seeing him in this role of being the straight man. I think it's really funny. So that's awesome. And next we have our next match, John Cruz and Joe Alonzo doing it for the likes, which is ridiculous, against Butcher and Blade, who I'm excited to see Butcher and Blade. I have not seen them wrestle before because I'm relatively new to AEW, and apparently Allie used to be with them as the Bunny and no longer is. She doesn't even really answer the question when it's posed to her. So John Cruz comes to the ring, and he's got the Los Pendejos shirt. I have that exact same shirt from when I used to book them. So that's a little thrill for me. John Cruz really does a great job getting his ass whipped. Butcher and Blade really put it to him. At one point, the commentators describe something as Mil Mascaras-esque, which pops me. Really impactful team with Butcher and Blade. They just do it a really good job. John Cruz is a consummate pro. Always looks good. Always makes the people that he's wrestling look great. Joe Alonzo probably could use a little more training, but, he did what he was supposed to do. And that final finisher from Butcher and Blade looks really impressive. Butcher really is strong. When he yoked him over in that suplex without having his arm around his neck to do it, it really was impressive. And the commentators, Taz, like I said, does a phenomenal job commentating these things. Excalibur is good as well, but Taz really does a good job of pointing things out. Then we get a promo with Brandon and Peter Avalon and Leva, which I really like. And Brandon and Peter Avalon are arguing, and Leva brings them together going like, let's team you up. And then she goes, I'm so smart. I really like it. I think Leva's a delightful performer. I think this is a good role for her and Peter Avalon. I love that they're giving them and Brandon Cutler something to do. And they're going to be in our main event. Good luck with that, guys. Number 3 match. This is where Christy James comes in. And Kylan King. They just have a good back and forth match. And Christy James wins, but in a way that doesn't make Kylan King look bad at all. Kylan King gets to hit this great kick combination thing. Boot to the stomach, a spinning kick, then a boot to the head, hits this cutter, which she didn't hit clean. So they did a good job with camera work and editing to sort of cover that fact. I really like that. And then she goes for the pin, and Christy James manages to roll her up, pull the tights, and win. So it was one of those where it really was the most even match of the night, surprisingly. And Christy James just looks great. And, she looks great in both senses of that word. I think she's very solid in the ring. Like I said, she had a really good match with Hikaru Shida. And she just looks good, moves her thing, and she's Brazilian and just beautiful. And Kylan King, like I said, the more she kind of tightens up, I realized who she reminds me of. In the YouTube world, there's this one person called Jacqueline Glenn, who I'm a big fan of. And Kylan King kind of resembles her in a really good way. I don't just mean in terms of looks and fit, but the sort of energy that she's got. Kylan King is definitely somebody who's on her way. Then we go into the 4th match, which is EJ Lewis, I believe, teaming with Big Game Leroy. And Big Game apparently means I play my Nintendo Switch. It's just so indie of a gimmick. Santana and Ortiz, I think they may be my favorite tag team in AEW, by far. They had an incredibly brutal offense. They were the most believable people on the card, even more brutal in their own way than Butcher and Blade. The thing where one of them grabbed the guy in the Gory Guerrero special and the other guy chopped him. It all just looks so brutal, but it's all cleanly done. And that's a complaint I've had about AEW tag teams. Not Butcher and Blade, who I thought were great, but other teams in the past, like Private Party and stuff, where their stuff just looks sloppy. But Santana Ortiz, everything was clean, looked effective, looked brutal. They didn't break what they were doing. And I totally got why they would be part of the Inner Circle. They just looked imposing. I was glad to see them get this win because it puts them above 500 in the win column. As long as they're putting these records up, and AEW has been very consistent about that, which is wonderful. And then their finisher, where somebody gets picked up in a powerbomb position and then takes the blockbuster, it looks good. Santana and Ortiz are my favorite tag team, even more than the Lucha Brothers, who do all kinds of fantastic, great-looking stuff. But I was really impressed with Santana and Ortiz. They kind of remind me of modern renditions of Tully and Arn. That's high praise coming from me, in case you didn't know. Now we go into our last match. Brandon Cutter and Peter Avalon against Dustin and QT. Lots of great stuff. QT took heat for a long time and took it for so long that I thought for a second, are they going to do a thing where Brandon and Peter get the win just because QT is wrestling selfish and is distracted by Allie? Allie was not bad at commentary, really put over the story well, really put over the fact that she's super into QT. A spot that could have been a mess that ended up looking great all around. Good job by everybody who was part of it. Leva grabs the foot, and QT manages to get out of the ring, slaps the book out of her hand, which I thought was a nice little spot, and then Avalon hit a dive. And then Brandy came in and had an interaction with Leva and hit her with a boot and a stunner. I hate when anybody does the boot and the stunner. It just looks, it immediately invokes. I always used to tell the wrestlers when I train them, don't invoke superior talent. And there's just something that it's just Stone Cold's move. So many guys do the cutter that it's like nobody's move anymore, especially in AEW. But a boot and a stunner is always going to be Stone Cold. Anyway, but that's not saying it wasn't delivered well. Brandy delivered it well. Leva sold it great. All good. Dustin is so good on the hot tag. He's so smooth it almost looks like he's not giving full effort. That's how smooth he is. And I got to say, Brandon Cutter and Peter Avalon did a great job taking this hot tag. Every spot was on point. Little touches, like when Dustin is going to do the inverted atomic drop on Peter Avalon. Peter Avalon put his legs out wide as much as he could on almost a split, which made that little move look even better. Both of them took great power slams, looked really, really good. I thought the Leva stopping the Shattered Dream spot was really effective as well, which led to the cutter. And then they polished him off with their new finisher, which is Dustin hitting a destroyer followed by QT hitting a cutter. Then they had a little promo thing afterwards where QT kind of ditches them to go celebrate with Allie. Again, teasing this dissension is a nice long-term move. I really like it. I think it's very effective. And finally, whoa, sorry I got loud there. I can see that. I should have been turning the microphone this way the whole time. My apologies. Hopefully this comes out clean. I'll check it to make sure. Then we promoted a bunch of stuff for Dynamite tomorrow night. Cody versus Jungle Boy. Omega and Page against Havoc and Sabian with Penelope Ford, and Jericho against Cabana, and then Brian Cage will have a match. And that's AEW Dark. One final thing. On the AEW Facebook page, one thing is, God, I hate wrestling fans sometimes, and they're so thirsty about the women. It's gotten to the point where it's ruining my enjoyment. I know that they're trying not to edit the fans. I would hope that they had their own sort of social mores about the stuff. That's just a little side note. But otherwise, I thought, again, AEW Dark continuing to improve and get better. I do think it works better in a less than hour format as opposed to over an hour format. 45 minutes feels about right. Throwing in 2 or 3 things that are going to really lend itself towards the main roster on Dynamite is a smart way to go. And then finding little stories to tell amongst the regulars that we see on AEW Dark is also a very pleasant and nice surprise. And I would not be upset to see Peter Avalon and Leva be featured and get promos and things like that. I think it's a good use of them. In any case, this has been Platinum versus AEW Dark. And I'm Stephen Platinum, your friend in wrestling. Have a good week.